The Olympic Village was never meant to feel dangerous. It was designed to feel sacred, a temporary city built for greatness. Flags from every nation fluttering above identical apartment blocks. Security checkpoints at every entrance. Accreditation badges scanned with mechanical precision. Inside those gates, the world's most disciplined bodies slept, trained, and waited for history. That was the illusion, because once the competitions ended each night, something else emerged. Music leaked from open balconies. Athletes who had trained in silence for years suddenly found themselves famous in a city with no parents, no coaches watching every move, no national federations hovering over their shoulders. Freedom arrived all at once, and so did temptation. It started with a watch. Not just any watch, a limited edition luxury timepiece, gifted to a decorated ice skater by a high-profile sponsor. Custom engraved, country initials etched beneath the face. Market value rumored to be well into six figures. It wasn't just expensive, it was symbolic. She wore it during press conferences, during interviews, during her walk into the arena the night she secured silver. And then it vanished. The last confirmed sighting placed the watch inside her village apartment after a private gathering, a small celebration with teammates and a few athletes from other delegations. Nothing officially registered. No formal event clearance. Just music, laughter, and the release of pressure after years of restraint. By morning, the watch box was open, empty. At first, she assumed she'd misplaced it. Fatigue does strange things to memory. She retraced her steps, checked her luggage, replayed the night in fragments. Nothing. Within hours, word spread quietly through the building, then through the floor, then across delegations. Something had been stolen. Inside the Olympic Village. That was impossible. Or at least that's what everyone believed. Security was layered. Cameras covered hallways. Key cards tracked entry and exit. Visitors were logged. Bags were screened. So how does a six-figure watch disappear from the most secured residential compound in global sport? The question moved faster than officials could contain it. Whispers began. Who attended the party? Who left early? Who stayed after midnight? Who had access to her room? The celebration that had felt harmless hours earlier now felt like a liability. Athletes avoided eye contact in the cafeteria. Teammates grew cautious. National staff members held tense closed-door meetings. And outside the village gates, the world knew nothing. Because the Olympics sell purity, unity, discipline, not theft, not recklessness, not young superstars partying behind biometric scanners. The skater filed an internal report before noon. Security assured her they would review footage. But by the end of the day, a quiet contradiction surfaced. There was a 6-minute gap in corridor camera coverage during the exact window the watch was believed to have disappeared. 6 minutes. In the most secured compound in global sport. And suddenly the illusion began to crack. By the second day, the missing watch was no longer an inconvenience. It was a threat. The Olympic Village operates on a fragile ecosystem of trust. Thousands of elite competitors living meters apart. Doors unlocked between teammates. Equipment shared. Schedules posted openly. The system only works if everyone believes the boundaries will hold. Now they weren't sure. Security began discreet interviews. Not formal interrogations that would draw attention. Instead, polite requests, quiet knock on doors, calm voices, just routine clarification. The guest list from the private gathering became the center of gravity. 9 athletes, 3 nations, 1 apartment, each told a slightly different version of the same night. Music, laughter, a few drinks smuggled in from outside the village. Someone mentioned a balcony visit. Someone else remembered a heated debate about judging scores. Another insisted nothing unusual happened at all. But consistency is fragile under pressure. One athlete claimed he left at 11:40 p.m. Key card logs showed 12:07 a.m. Another insisted she never entered the bedroom area. A teammate quietly recalled seeing her step inside to take a phone call. Nothing explosive. Nothing definitive. Just small fractures. The skater replayed every interaction in her mind. Who hovered near her dresser? Who complimented the watch? Who asked to try it on earlier that week? Memory became an unreliable narrator. By afternoon, rumors had outpaced facts. Some believed it was an outsider, a volunteer slipping past protocol. Others suspected a rival athlete resentful of her medal. A few whispered something worse, that someone inside her own delegation had taken it. The village dining hall shifted in tone. Conversations lowered when she entered. Phones tilted subtly in her direction. Eyes followed. Fame magnifies everything, especially suspicion. Officials reviewed the hallway footage. The 6-minute gap remained unexplained. A routine maintenance glitch, they said, but glitches don't choose timing. And the gap aligned almost perfectly with the window between the last confirmed sighting of the watch and the moment the party dissolved. Security logs showed no forced entry, no unauthorized badges, no recorded anomalies at perimeter checkpoints, which meant one uncomfortable possibility began to solidify. Whoever took the watch was already inside. The story could have been contained, quietly reimbursed by insurance, dismissed as unfortunate chaos in a high-pressure environment. But the sponsor was informed, and sponsors don't tolerate mystery. A 6-figure promotional piece disappearing inside Olympic housing posed a branding problem. Questions were sent to organizers. Organizers sent pressure downward. Find it. Resolve it. Silence it. The Skaters' Federation urged discretion. Let's not escalate publicly, they advised. Focus on competition. But competition was already over. What remained was reputation and doubt. Then another detail surfaced. An athlete from a different delegation had been seen leaving the building carrying a small velvet pouch shortly after midnight. The description matched the watch case lining. It wasn't proof. It was proximity. And proximity is enough to ruin careers inside a rumor ecosystem. By nightfall, the village no longer felt sacred. It felt divided. Locked doors replaced open ones. Invitations stopped. And somewhere inside that compound, the missing watch had transformed from a stolen object into a ticking device. By the third day, the search for the watch had stopped feeling like recovery. It felt like containment. Olympic officials activated internal compliance protocols, the kind rarely discussed publicly. Discretion was paramount. No police involvement unless absolutely necessary. No media leaks. No written accusations without verified evidence. The games were still underway. A scandal inside the village would fracture the narrative of unity broadcast to billions. Security pulled badge data from every attendee. Entry timestamps, exit scans, elevator usage, floor movement. The system mapped patterns with clinical precision. On paper, nothing was wrong, which made it worse, because theft without trace implies intent. The athlete seen with the velvet pouch was quietly approached. He cooperated immediately. Calm, confident. He allowed his luggage to be inspected. Nothing. No watch. No packaging. No trace of resale inquiry on his devices. He seemed almost too composed. Meanwhile, tension inside the skaters' delegation began to surface. Her coach worried the story would overshadow her medal. Her federation feared sponsor fallout. Teammates felt scrutinized by association. Whispers suggested the party itself violated conduct expectations. The watch had become evidence of something larger. Undisciplined behavior. Late-night gatherings. Blurred lines inside a supposedly controlled environment. One official asked the question no one wanted to voice. If we report this externally, what else comes out? Because the private gathering hadn't been officially logged. Alcohol had entered the village unofficially. Athletes from multiple delegations had mixed without clearance. Security blind spots suddenly mattered beyond theft. The skater felt the isolation most. Her phone buzzed constantly, concerned messages, subtle warnings, suggestions to let it go. She began to question her own certainty. Had she worn the watch out earlier? Had someone borrowed it? Was fatigue distorting her memory? Gaslighting doesn't always come from malice. Sometimes it comes from institutional self-preservation. Security re-examined the camera failure. The 6-minute blackout corresponded with a localized software reset. A technician confirmed a patch had been deployed that evening. Routine maintenance. But no scheduled downtime had been announced. And the reset originated from a terminal inside the security operations room. Access to that terminal required clearance far above athlete level. The implication shifted the axis of suspicion. If the camera blackout wasn't accidental, then whoever took the watch either understood the system or had help from someone who did. That possibility terrified organizers. Internal emails circulated with cautious language. No evidence of breach. No confirmation of misconduct. Continued discreet review. The athlete with the velvet pouch was cleared informally, but never officially absolved. The rumor lingered around him like humidity. His upcoming competition felt heavier. Cameras followed him longer than usual. Meanwhile, the skater faced a private offer. Insurance would cover the financial loss. The sponsor would issue a replacement. A joint statement could describe the incident as misplacement during post-competition celebration. No crime, no scandal, just a mistake. She stared at the blank draft statement on her phone. Accept reimbursement, protect the games, or continue pressing for truth in a system that clearly preferred silence. Outside, the Olympic flame burned undisturbed. Inside, the question sharpened. Was the watch stolen by an athlete or erased by an institution unwilling to let imperfection surface? The breakthrough didn't come from security. It came from boredom. A junior tech assigned to archive non-critical footage noticed something odd while reformatting auxiliary hallway feeds. The 6-minute blackout wasn't total. Primary corridor cameras had reset, but a secondary service camera, positioned near a maintenance exit, had continued recording. No one had checked it because it wasn't mapped to residential surveillance. It monitored utility traffic, cleaning staff, equipment carts. Nothing glamorous. At 12:02 a.m., the feed captured movement. A figure exiting the skater's floor stairwell, face partially obscured by a hood. Accreditation badge tucked inward, hands empty. But 3 seconds later, the same figure re-entered the frame near the maintenance door, holding something small, reflective. The object caught overhead light just once, a sharp metallic flicker. Then the person stepped through the service corridor and disappeared into a blind zone that led not to athlete housing, but toward an internal administrative wing. The timestamp overlapped perfectly with the camera reset window. Security froze the frame, enhanced it, zoomed. The badge, though reversed, displayed a color stripe inconsistent with athlete credentials. It wasn't a competitor. It was staff-level access. The room shifted from suspicion to dread, because staff involvement meant liability, not rumor, not rivalry, institutional breach. Further review of access logs revealed that a mid-level operations coordinator had signed into the security terminal minutes before the camera reset. His clearance allowed software patches, maintenance overrides, temporary feed suspensions. He claimed it was routine optimization. But routine doesn't require midnight deployment during peak occupancy. When approached, he denied any connection to the skater's apartment floor. He insisted he had remained inside operations the entire evening. The secondary camera disagreed. Facial recognition was inconclusive due to partial obstruction, but body metrics, height, gait pattern, shoulder alignment, produced a high probability match. Internal panic replaced quiet concern. If this surfaced publicly, it would confirm what organizers feared most. The Olympic Village was not self-regulating. It was vulnerable and possibly compromised by the very people entrusted to secure it. Confronted with footage, the coordinator's composure fractured. Not immediately, not dramatically, just enough. He admitted to accessing the hallway during the reset window, but his explanation shifted the narrative again. He claimed he hadn't stolen the watch. he had retrieved it. According to him, an athlete, identity withheld, had approached him earlier that night in distress. The watch had been borrowed impulsively during the party. Panic followed. Reputation risk loomed. The athlete begged for discretion, so the coordinator intervened. He initiated the camera reset to avoid documentation, entered the floor, collected the watch, planned to return it anonymously after the games concluded. A misguided attempt at protection, not theft, containment. But his story introduced a contradiction. If he intended to return it, why move toward the administrative wing rather than secure storage? And why did inventory records show no logged intake of recovered property? Under pressure, the explanation unraveled. There was no distressed athlete, no plan to return it, only opportunity, only temptation. The watch had not been stolen by envy. It had been taken by access. And the Olympic Village illusion collapsed, not because of reckless youth, but because of quiet authority. The confession never reached the public, not fully. Within 48 hours of the secondary footage discovery, the operations coordinator was removed from active duty. Official language described it as administrative reassignment pending internal review. No arrest, no press briefing, no televised apology. The watch was recovered from a locker inside a restricted maintenance area. Undamaged, untouched, still ticking. Organizers faced a decision far more complex than restitution. If they disclosed staff involvement, they would validate every whispered doubt about Olympic Village security. If they concealed it entirely, they risked exposure later, and scandal amplified by secrecy. So they chose the middle path. A controlled statement was drafted. A personal item reported missing inside the Olympic Village has been located. No evidence of athlete misconduct. Internal protocols reviewed and reinforced. No names, no footage, no mention of camera resets. The sponsor accepted the explanation after private assurances. The skater received her watch back in a closed-door meeting with Federation officials present. Cameras were not allowed inside. She expected relief when it was placed in her hands. Instead, she felt distance. The object that once symbolized achievement now carried something heavier, awareness. The village was not sacred. It was managed. Managed perception. Managed narratives. Managed damage. The coordinator signed a confidentiality agreement. Employment terminated quietly weeks after the games concluded. No criminal charges were filed. Organizers cited lack of public interest and recovery of property as mitigating factors. The athlete initially suspected with the velvet pouch was never formally cleared in the public eye. Though innocent, he carried the weight of rumor throughout the remainder of competition. Online speculation had already done its work. A narrative once formed rarely dissolves completely. The skater declined to speak about the incident during post-games interviews. But policy changed. Additional surveillance, redundancies were installed before the next Olympic cycle. Camera resets required dual authorization. Service corridor feeds were integrated into main monitoring grids. Staff access logs were subject to independent review. Reforms rarely announce the scandal that inspired them. They simply appear. Years later, when another minor village incident surfaced, an unauthorized party, allegations of misconduct, curfew violations, commentators referenced tightened post-incident protocols without detailing their origin. The public never connected the dots. But inside administrative circles, the watch became case study material. A reminder that ambition does not only live in athletes. Power attracts opportunity. Access invites temptation. And even in a city built for unity, human flaws move quietly through secure hallways. The skater still wears the watch occasionally, not during ceremonies, not during interviews, only in private, because she understands something now that few spectators ever will. The Olympic dream is broadcast in high definition. Its vulnerabilities are handled in silence. And sometimes the darkest side of glory isn't what athletes do behind closed doors. It's what institutions choose to protect once those doors are opened. If you believe the games are flawless, look closer. Because sometimes the real scandal isn't the crime, it's the cover.